And we are getting some questions on Twitch here. Do we want to kind of move into maybe some of those player impacts? Again, our focus here is going to be on the Chicago game, and people are kind of wondering, what do we do with these QBs, wide receivers, and running backs for
Yeah,
the
I think we should go to the question. Let's just start with Montgomery since there were some questions on that in Twitch, and then we'll run through the other players.
Yeah. Yeah, so typically during these games, right, when we have high precipitation events, and especially we're talking about two young QBs, as Colin mentioned earlier on, Trey Lance, Justin Fields coming in here. Trey Lance is completely unproven. He's a raw prospect coming in here. He has a lot of potential. So his floor is huge, but his ceiling is huge, but his floor is also pretty low as well. Mike, you drafted Trey Lance in our league. Are you playing him this week?
Yeah, so there was a ton of offseason buzz about Trey Lance, right? They got rid of, or they essentially dethroned Jimmy G, put Trey Lance into the starting role. They have a lot invested in him, right? So we know that essentially the 49ers are backing him to do this. I drafted Trey Lance. I'm big on him this year. But I can tell you this, I don't feel super confident in Lance this week. I have in our home league here in just fantasy football, I actually made a pivot. I'm actually pivoting to Jared Goff. And that's even something that makes me feel sick saying out of my stomach there, just because no one wants to play Jared Goff in week 1. But particularly in this game here, if there is significant wind, I'm a little concerned. Now, I think Lance will have some will have a floor with regards to rushing. I think he's going to be a mobile quarterback, and that he could potentially make up for any big plays, throughout the air that maybe, you don't see it in this game just because of that wind. But I'm looking for more of a stable option this week in my league, and also in my DFS lineups. I'm not targeting Lance this week.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. With Lance, if you want to take that dart throw and go with him, go for it. Just know that floor could be low.
Risky.
Right now, he's projecting. What's that?
I was saying is risky. Yeah.
Yeah, he is risky, right? He is. I mean, right now he's projected to get 207 passing yards and 42 rushing yards. I don't know if I want to hang my hat on that this week. I mean, Justin Fields, same thing. He's projected at around 199 yards and 39 rushing yards. So really low totals here for both of these QBs. Now, does that mean that they're going to rely more on their rushing game? You have David Montgomery, who's been an established back in this league for several years now. And you have Elijah Mitchell coming in, who kind of took that position from some of the other RBs that we saw from last season, and he's projected here to get quite a few carries as well. Mike, do you have a preference over Montgomery or Elijah Mitchell, or are you excited about playing either of these options?
Yeah, so we know during weather events when there's wind and rain involved, usually the coaches, when they start to see the quarterback struggle, will start to shift the game plan a little bit, right? You start to see more shorter passes, and you start to see more of the running backs getting involved. If you're playing a PPR, you could get away with David Montgomery. I think he's going to be involved with the passing game, but you have to keep in mind that the 49ers defense was really good against the run last year. So just on that alone with the defense, it does scare me a little bit, and I'm starting to shy away from Montgomery. These are some of the options that I've been kind of considering when playing over Montgomery. A.J. Dillon, I know he's the second running back in Green Bay, but he's going against Minnesota. People are probably wanting to start Montgomery over him, but I think Dillon's probably a safer start, and that's one of the moves I actually did in my league. To answer your question, Sean, I'm actually feel better about Elijah Mitchell over David Montgomery.
Yeah, and I think statistically speaking, right, when we have these rainy games, especially with these two, young QBs, they may be dumping those passes off. So we may see an increased workload in the passing game. So a little bit more of a PPR floor for Montgomery and Elijah Mitchell coming in to this game. I don't expect breakout games for either of these guys. I think this is going to be a slow-paced game. A lot of rushing, a lot of short passes, increased time of possession. Right now, the over-under on this game is 40 points. It actually dropped from 40.5. So they're not projecting a lot of points to be scored here, a slow-moving game, and just not a lot of offensive production overall.
Yeah.